I am now streaming on Twitch. Gonna check the feed, make sure the video's running and there's audio and I can hear things and it's working. Yay. Okay. And I'm not casting on Dementia Radio, but I am recording.
Recorded live on DementiaRadio.org, it's the Funny Music Podcast, brought to you by FuMP.com, where you can download new free comedy songs twice a week. Now, here's your hosts, Devo Spice and the great Luke Ski.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the FuMPCast. This is Devo Spice. Luke Ski is not available to join us this evening, unfortunately. This is episode 793 of the Funny Music Podcast for August 28th, although today's the 26th, 2025. The title of this week's episode is Rapid Dolls, which I just put in the chat so I can refer to it later, since I'm here alone tonight. We will have a pre-recorded interview with Stephen Smith of Regdar and the Fighters coming up later in the show. But as I mentioned, Luke is at work at the moment, and his schedule is still a little up in the air, so we're not sure when he's going to be back to join us. But I can tell you what I've been up to.
Let's get caught up with what Devo and Luke have been up to since last week. Or else Devo, if Luke failed and didn't show up.
Hey, what?
No, he's right.
So when did we record the last episode? Was it Wednesday? Yeah. So last Thursday, Darren and I went to Six Flags New England, the park that I will forever call Riverside, because to me it's still Riverside. And the reason we went to this park instead of Great Adventure is because Riverside had a new roller coaster opening this year that I hadn't been on yet. And it's actually a type of roller coaster I've never been on yet. It's a straddle coaster. You ride it like a motorcycle. And I had seen videos of it. It looked like fun. I was like, let's go. And he was like, sure. And we did. And we got there and the ride wasn't open yet. There was a sign that said, due to additional testing, the grand opening has been delayed. And I was like, I thought it was open. Like, I swear I saw videos of people on this thing. So I don't know whether there were like early testers who got like reporters or something who got to ride it, or if it was just a CG rendering that I saw. I don't know. So now I got to keep an eye on when it actually opens, and we got to go back. Not a big deal. I got to pass. I can go whenever. I have also been working on the narration of the first two books I was assigned on ACX. I finished the narration of one of them, which is a short business book. I just have a couple of pickups to do, which I might do after the show tonight, depending on how late we finish here. And I got the first 15 minutes of the other book approved. So I sent them an invoice, and I will start recording the rest of that book. So, sorry. I'm rubbing up against my microphone here. I've had a couple of really cool auditions come up. My new agent is just nailing it. He is knocking it out of the park with, like, auditions. Now I need to actually book something because, it's great to audition, but I need to book something. So I auditioned for a commercial yesterday, which was a lot of fun, and I'm really hoping I get this one just because it was such a funny bit that, and I would love to do this one. And it paid well, so that's always a plus. I've also been making CDs. I sent out another batch of the Dr. Demento tribute albums last weekend, and unfortunately ran out of CD printer ink. I made the mistake of making the CDs look like 45s, which means they're basically just big black coverall print with record textures in them and stuff. They look cool, but man, does that use a lot of CD ink. And the CD ink is kind of a specialty item that you can't get overnight. So I have more on order. It's probably going to arrive on Thursday, and then I will keep making up more CDs and get the next batch in the mail, hopefully by the weekend. But in addition to the Dr. Demento tribute album, I also have CDs to make for Dead by 28 and Carla Ulbrich. So I have a bunch of CDs to make. So I'm just going to be burning through that CD ink. So tonight, once again, because of my acting classes, we are recording this on Tuesday. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that I think the next yeah, so I have 2 more weeks of acting class for this session. And so we would be back on Thursday the 11th, but I'm actually being interviewed on another podcast on Thursday the 11th. So we will be back on Thursday nights on Thursday, September 18th. So I apologize for the interruption, but things happen. All right. Let's get into some music, shall we? Here is the new one by Regdar and the Fighters, which this version is apparently exclusive to the FuMP. We talk about that during his interview. Here is Nerd Regrets.
I haven't played D&D in 2 editions. I haven't played Warcraft 3 or World of. My elf vocabulary has some omissions. I've lapsed my lexicon, I've lost my love. I've got nerd regrets, I focus too much on guitar. I traded my credit, tried too hard to be a star. They say they can smell a cellar from afar. I'm scared because I know that's what we are. I never beat Doom even on normal. I never joined the My Nintendo Club. All my Linux machines are virtual. All my animes are English dubs. I've got nerd regrets, I focus too much on guitar. I traded my credit, tried too hard to be a star. They say they can smell a cellar from afar. I'm scared because I know that's what we are. I was never cool in high school, so I'm faking it as a geek. Some kind of poser, hipster, always gonna be a freak. Gonna play it till my fingers bleed. It's the only thing I know I need to play. When I learned the Dance Revolution won't be televised, that is when I let the Dance Revolution die. I've got nerd regrets, I focus too much on guitar. I traded my credit, tried too hard to be a star. They say they can smell a cellar from afar. I'm scared because I know that's what we are. I'm scared because I know that's what we are.
I am here with Stephen Smith from Regdar and the Fighters. He is apparently one of the fighters, not Regdar.
Correct. Regdar is the laptop.
Regdar is the laptop. I thought Regdar was the drum machine, or is that kind of the same thing?
Same thing, yeah.
Okay. So tell us about Nerd Regrets.
So this is a song that was about 50% lie. It's an autobiographical song that was about 50% lies when I wrote it. And by the time I released it, it was probably 90 to 100% lies.
Okay, so you're getting caught up, so that's good.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like the pile of shame, as some people call it. Just working my way through that and, writing songs to hold myself accountable and then publishing those songs so that the accountability is wrong.
So what's left on your pile of shame list that you haven't done yet?
I mean, so many things. I've got like 100 books on my Goodreads to read list.
Yeah,
plus,
everybody has that. Yeah.
dozens of physical books that I've picked up that are just piled up on bookshelves elsewhere. Dwarf Fortress really ruined video games for me because I tend to be a completionist. So I would get a game and I would beat a game. I would work at the game until I had at least, beat it on normal mode or whatever. And then I picked up Dwarf Fortress, which doesn't have a win condition. You just play until you're done playing or you die. And that broke the part of my brain that wanted to beat video games. And so now I can't win video games anymore because I'm like, well, I haven't finished Dwarf Fortress yet since 2007. So every game is the pile of shame now.
Okay, that makes sense. I can see that. Yeah, I've got my own little pile of shame. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons.
None of
I've
them.
none of them, no.
No, wow.
I've never watched Babylon 5. I've seen exactly one episode of Babylon 5.
I've heard
Uh,
good things about it.
I
Never
have
watched
too.
it.
I've heard very good things about it, you know. And of course I have a handful of Marvel and Star Wars shows and films that I haven't seen, just scattered here and there. I'm fairly caught up on those, but there's a few I missed, you know.
I feel like one of the nice things about Disney picking that all up is it allowed me to just sort of let go. Because, like, I grew up in the era where comic book movies weren't good.
Hmm.
Um, your best comic book movie for 20 years was Blade, and then finally the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans came along, and we reached an era where like comic book movies were good, and they very suddenly became very mainstream, and they're all good, but also there's just way too many of them, and they're all corporate owned. So I was able to like give up and be like, okay, I release the comic book movies. I no longer have to be the vanguard of making sure that I watch them to give them the credibility. Uh, Disney will keep on putting them out, and I don't need to watch most of them anymore. There's just too many.
Yep, I can see that. I'm kind of in the same boat, but I mean,
Yeah,
I do still enjoy them. I've been keeping up with them for the most part.
yeah. I'll watch them occasionally, right? Like
Hmm.
when a comic book movie catches my eye, I'm like, oh, that one looks particularly fun. I'll check that out.
See, I grew up with The Incredible Hulk, the TV show with Lou Ferrigno,
Oh, oh, I
and
mean, like the TV shows were
I mean,
maybe
it
good.
was cheesy as hell if you go back and watch it. But I mean, it I loved it, you know. And the other thing that I grew up with that I absolutely loved was Super Friends on Saturday
Oh
morning.
wow.
And with Super Friends, like even as a kid, even at the time, I knew that like the animation was terrible and everything was cheesy and over the top. And but I loved it, and I went back and watched it later, and I was like, oh, now I understand why I loved it because I never read the comics. I never got into comics, but from what I understand, they pulled a lot of their stories from the comics. So there were
Oh,
good stories. You know, they actually had good stories on Super Friends. They were just terribly animated and, you know, horribly put together. But there was a nugget of quality there that
right.
I latched onto. So
The core was excellent, if just the execution was not.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and as a
Nice.
kid, I was constantly going around like, "Holy turntables, Batman!" You just whatever I could come up with, you know.
Holy whatever I see in front of me right now,
Yes,
Batman.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because I also watched the '60s Batman show in syndication that was on most weekday afternoons, I believe. So
I think we had a VHS of the movie
the
version
movie,
of that
yeah,
they
the movie
made,
is
where
great.
like
Yeah,
like they turned everybody into powder and then rehydrated them, and
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
probably the UN was now going to save the world because everyone's minds had been intermingled.
but like for the longest time as a kid, I wondered why I couldn't punch things hard enough to make a big pow graphic appear in thin air. You know. The
Seems
things
like
you
an
think of when
excellent
you're
way for a
kids, you know.
kid to injure themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Wonder
What's
how
the
hard I
problem
got
with
to punch
children's
my
cartoons
sister
these
to get this
days?
thing to appear, you know. It was yeah. So back to your song.
Hmm.
So when you're writing a Regdar song, I know Regdar is programmed to be somewhat random, right?
Correct.
So when you're doing a song in the studio that you're, recording, do you stick with the randomness or do you like keep doing takes until you find one you really like, or do you actually program it?
Yeah, so that's actually a methodology that I've been refining over the years. In that, when I first started the project, um, I would do a bunch of takes with the randomization, and then I would comp those together into a take that I liked. But I have since actually rewritten everything so that I can run the whole thing in the background. And so every given instance of the song gets its own unique seed that can be used to generate that specific re-randomization repeatedly. So like the FuMP versions of these songs, Like there's a FuMP seed, and so the drums and the synthesizers are re-randomized for that version of the song versus the one that's on the album, which uses whatever seed I think is appropriate at the time, whether it's CD or like master or whatever. And then everybody who subscribes on the Patreon, they get their own unique seed that allows them to have their own customized version of it. And I don't listen to most of these, honestly. Like while I'm working on the mix and while I'm prepping it for release on physical media, I'll listen to those versions. But like every Patreon version, like they have their own drums that I have never even heard.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's really so. Do you do the mix down and send it to them, or do they have like a web version of Regdar that the Patreon backers log into?
The mix down is also done in software.
Okay,
So there's a lot of back and forth of like, I do a randomized version of it and I listen and I make sure the levels are right, and then I will like go into the software and I'll tweak the levels in code and then run it again.
that's interesting. It's such a fascinating way to work, because I'm such a control freak when it comes to like drums and bass and keyboards and everything. I'm like, oh, I don't, that's not right, not right, and like I'll get a song, 90% done and then decide to go back and swap out drum sounds just because like as I'm layering instruments on top of it, sometimes, the drum sound I'll find a better sound later that I like that mixes with all the layering that I've done. So, like I'm constantly, I don't think I could do a song with random, any kind of randomness in the background.
Well, it all really stems from my hatred of backing tracks.
Hmm.
And that when I first started doing this live, I didn't have anyone else in the band. It was just me. And I didn't want to play to your standard, like, oh, I pre-recorded some drums and stuff, and that's
Yeah.
in the tracks. Neat, play along to that. And I was like, ooh, no, I don't like that. I want it to be live. I want that chaos and that unpredictability of live music. And so that's when I started messing with the random thing, so that live the drums and whatnot could be random. And then I just gradually figured out a way to work that into the recorded version too.
That's wild. Have you ever thought of making like a little like robot avatar for Regdar for when you perform live?
I have considered it, but I'm terrible at like physical construction of things. Like
Hmm.
I've got that thing where like if I try to do something really precise, my hand starts to shake worse and worse and worse.
Okay.
Um, and so like I'm terrible at soldering or arts and crafts, all those sorts of things. They're just very messy, and so I get frustrated very easily and give up.
Well, you could always do what Steve Goody did, and he's got his little bobblehead thing. What's his name? Steve, like, not, what the hell's his name? Bob. Bob. Yeah.
That
So
that makes sense.
he's got his little Bob thing, and he just taps it on the head, and it goes boing, 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 boing. So you could do that.
That's
Or,
true.
where is it? You could make yourself a Steve Goody mask and just attach that to your hat and then perform as Steve Goody.
There you go.
I'm gonna keep
I
this. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with this, but I'm keeping this. And
It's always good to have the ability to just like put Steve Goody's face on something
yeah,
instead of your own, I
yeah.
think. That's always a nice thing to have in your back pocket.
Like if I
The
say
the
something like
other
controversial or
is
something, I'll be like, I didn't say that. Steve Goody said that. See?
Steve said it. The other potential disadvantage of me trying to do like an actual avatar of Regdar is the original design of the character is just like the character Regdar that I very rarely use because it's illegal is a photo of my actual laptop pasted onto the head of the character Regdar from the Dungeons and Dragons Player's Guide.
Okay.
So like I don't own that art. I can't use that officially in anything. So that basically only goes on posters that are going to get hung up somewhere where they'll be rained on, and before Wizards of the Coast spots it and sues me.
Well, you could hire Chuck to do a parody drawing of it with a laptop head or something like that.
This is true. I know so many actual artists that I could hire to do
Yeah.
real versions of it. But then I
All
have to
right.
build it. I gotta get
Yeah.
the actual robot.
Yeah. No, yeah, just a little statue or something. That's or a
Little
cardboard
bobblehead.
cutout. That's all you need. All right. So, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Obviously the new album, Repossess the Sky Part 2 on Needle Juice Records right now, which features this song and completes the story, started on Repossess the Sky Part 1 for people who were wondering how that was going to turn out. Um, yeah, that's the big thing. And follow Regdar and the Fighters on none of your favorite social medias because I don't post anywhere.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
We will catch you next time. Dr. Demento is retiring, and the FuMP is paying tribute.
Thanks for the music, the memories, dementia, and the
Fruits of the Smogberry Trees, the FuMP's tribute to Dr. Demento, is available now as a 2-CD set or digital download.
Demento, play my song.
Only 19 minutes long.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, trees of smog.
Featuring over 2 hours of music with your favorite FuMP artists paying tribute to Dr. Demento and covering some of his most popular songs.
Dead puppies.
Fruits of the Smogberry Trees, the FuMP's tribute to Dr. Demento, is now available in the store at thefump.com. That's THEFUMP.com. Order your copy now. Like, right now!
Time for funny music news. Something.
In the news, as you just heard, the Dr. Demento tribute album, Fruits of the Smogberry Trees, is now available. I'm expecting, I can't remember if I said this on the show earlier or not, I'm expecting more CD, yeah, I did, more CD ink later this week, so hopefully the next batch of CDs will go out this weekend. Jamie Schreiner put out a new album recently. She is a Chicago comedian who released a new album called Good Grief. This is described as humorous songs to discuss her struggles with dating, body image, and so much more. It is available now on all the streaming platforms, and I have added it to the comedy music releases spreadsheet. Jake Dewar is rebranding a bit. As he says in a post on Facebook, though the humor will likely never go away, I've dropped the comedy and comedian monikers from my artist name and social media handles and re-released compilations of what I consider to be the best of my previous work, plus my most recent album and EP. The latter is a slight departure from my traditional sketch and musical comedy route. The reason being, I'm venturing into new musical territory, both personally and professionally, and this seems the most efficient way to go about it. All these albums are available for download or streaming on the usual places under the name Jake Dewar, with the handle Jake Dewar Music. The website will be updated soon as well. In fact, the website has been updated. It is now jakedewarmusic.com. If you go to his former website, jakedewarcomedy.com, it redirects you to jakedewarmusic.com. And the FuMP's newsletter for August went out the other day, featuring stories about our Dr. Demento tribute, some other new releases, featured videos, and more. If you're not on our mailing list, you can view it online at tiny.cc/FuMP0825 for August of 2025. tiny.cc/FuMP0825. All right, tour dates. On Sundays, online, 2 Sleeps, the last Sunday of each month on Facebook, Lauren Mayer. Mondays, online, Steve Gooding and Brad Tassel at virtualcomedyshow.com. Wednesdays in San Francisco, California, Ben Vicini. The 28th through the 1st in Atlanta, Georgia, the Brobdingnagian Bards, Clearly Guilty, Mark Gunn, Mikey Mason, and Tom Smith, all at DragonCon. On the 29th in Westerville, Ohio, Steve Goody. The 29th in Oakland, California, Phil Johnson and Roadside Attraction. The 30th in Adrian, Michigan, Steve Goody. The 31st on YouTube, Escape from the Secret Lab, featuring the Consortium of Genius. And on the 6th in Muncie, Indiana, Mikey Mason. Birthdays coming up on the 3rd. Xander Jeanneret of the Library Bards. Happy birthday, Xander. All right, and our second song of the week from the Lemon Demon album, Damn Skippy, here is Dead Sea Monkeys.
Making the internet absolutely ridiculous. Dementia Radio.
www.dementiaradio.org. Port 8027.
Please hang up and try again.
This is the part where there's feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback, you know that segment of the show we do about now?
Feedback. Feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback.
Lee, let's sing a song about Lee, let's sing a song about Lee, you're testing my ADD.
Eclectic Lee wrote, "So, how much would you charge for masks of various FuMP artists?" Well, that depends, Lee. How much are you willing to pay? Because I can charge a lot. I don't know. Maybe we should do this, like, you know, if at some point we just sell masks of FuMP artists for whatever reason. Or maybe I could shrink them down and make little figurines out of them, and they'd be rapid dolls. All right.
For who could ever learn to love a beast?
Father Beast wrote, "You know, shaving cream is sort of a timeless classic. I will sing it at work to people who don't know comedy music and haven't even heard of Weird Al, and the response curiously turns to be very similar. At the end of the first verse, they crack a smile. At the end of the second verse, they have an involuntary snort. By the end of the third verse, they are confused. They can clearly see it coming, but for some reason they can't help but laugh. They will often come back to me in a couple of days and ask me, 'Hey, sing that song where you say shit, but you don't say shit.'" And then he follows up with, "Back when he was on the radio, I remember when the shaving cream would make the Funny Five, Dr. D would perform it himself with whoever was in the studio that week. The verses would vary and often had some reference to something current. I recall one particular time that he did the song and ended the song with, 'If any of you feel offended, stick your head in a Santa Monica Bay filled with shaving cream, and I mean it too.' I have no idea what prompted that particular outburst or if anyone else remembers this." Thank you, Father Beast. Yeah, actually, that's the same response I had when I was a kid and I first heard the song. Like, I thought it was funny the first time, and then every time, like, the chorus came around, it was just funny again. You know, it just kept being funny. All right, over on YouTube. A-Log!
Oh my god, it's you, not again!
A-Log wrote, "Love the cover of Shaving Cream, as well as Ian's new song from the tribute album. I can tell this is going to be epic. One thing I will say is this, since I have the Goodbye Dr. Demento show the day after Tony posts his parody up, it will definitely be played before or around October 4th, since my other tribute to the doc will air all 46 songs that were number one on the Funny 25. Other than that, I'll be sure to get the album soon and make my drive to work a little more demented." Thank you, A-Log. And Insane Ian wrote, "Title is Zinc Mailbox. Title card says Snail Insurance. Wonder how would we have worked in that one instead?" Yeah, apparently I forgot to update the title screen last week. Like, entirely. The show number was wrong, too. I'm not going to fix it. So, it is what it is. All right, that's it for feedback. Oh, and I did clip out that segment for Madman. You know what? Let me just... here's proof.
Yeah, well, he is a madman after all.
And he's on the loose!
So, there it is, Ken. You have an intro. All right.
Teasing. He's a teasing kind of guy. Now you have a job. Yeah!
Tomorrow or Friday's song is by Mikey Mason, and Tuesday's song is by David W. Jacobson. And next week's Spotify playlist topic, I'm going to do school, since a lot of people are going back to school, including tomorrow. I'm taking Darren back to school for moving back on into the dorms. So, all right. Lemon Demon is at lemondemon.com. Regdar and the Fighters are at regdarandthefighters.bandcamp.com. Possibly regdarandthefighters.com too. Not sure. But their album is available on Needle Juice Records at needlejuicerecords.com. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you for listening to the Funny Music Podcast. I'm Devo Spice. Hopefully Luke will be back soon, and hopefully we'll be back on Thursdays at some point. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Funny Music Podcast. You can listen live every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific at DementiaRadio.org and join us in the chat. Or subscribe to the podcast feed. Look us up on iTunes and be sure to leave us a review. Feedback for the show can be sent to info@thefump.com. The Funny Music Podcast is a production of Fidem Interactive, LLC, released under a Creative Commons share-alike license. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Shout it to random people on the street. And be sure to visit thefump.com for the latest funny songs. Tune in next week where you'll hear Luke Ski say,
"Good bucket, Devo."